Separated by the Salish Sea, connected by the Rio Graps in BC. This is the Cup Check Wrestling Podcast with Aaron Schultz and Corey Ace Trelaw.
Adrenaline in his soul. He could challenge for the AEW Championship no more. It is Cup Check Wrestling, a very unique edition of the Cup Check Wrestling Podcast. Aaron Schultz with Corey Ace Trelaw, recording just about a half hour after the end of AEW Revolution, the pay-per-view event on Sunday, March 15th from Los Angeles, California. We will not bury the lead. We'll get into the details of what the agenda is going to be looking like for this episode in just a few moments, but we cannot bury the lead. In a very bloody match that went near 40 minutes, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, retains the AEW Men's World Championship as clean as a whistle, fair and square, as clean as he possibly can in a Texas death match. He beats Hangman Adam Page at his own match. He is still the AEW Men's World Champion, and by stipulation, by his own word, the Hangman will never challenge for the AEW Men's World Championship again. Ace, I was just mentioning to you, this is probably the most raw podcast we've ever done. It's as raw as Monday nights. It's as raw as war. And it's as raw as medium rare chicken strips. Yeah, we've kind of just been sitting on our thoughts for the last half hour and change while we're getting ready. As I'll very quickly, as far as results go, that was the last result I saw coming tonight. MJF is still the champion. Hangman can never challenge for the championship again, according to stipulation, according to his word. How are you holding up with this result, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it last week or the week before, or both. I really thought this was worst case scenario. I was really hoping they didn't go this route with it. Again, it just happened, so we haven't had much time to sit on it. Right now, currently, I'm not a fan, and I think that it was kind of dumb. What they do in the follow-up, we'll see obviously play out in the coming weeks and months and years. But my initial thought, being someone who studies history, is those who do not learn from it are doomed to repeat it. And it didn't go well the last time we had this stipulation in place. So I'm apprehensive to see how it goes the second time. Yeah, it's still kind of right now. I'm still sort of coming to grips with it and seeing. I didn't think it was the right move. I still don't think it's the right move. Maybe I'm proven wrong, but at this time, I'm just kind of like, wow, because it was such a good show otherwise. And even the match itself was great.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Truly a great pay-per-view. Honestly, this, for many reasons, we'll find out if this is going to be a good reason or a bad reason, one of the most memorable pay-per-view shows they've ever had, one of the most memorable main events we've seen. We'll go into it with all of the gory details. Because either way, this is as real a match or as real a result with consequences as you can have in wrestling. I mean, it's all predetermined, we know, but something real is going to happen. And so even if the Hangman never challenges for the AEW Men's World Championship again, if that happens, that's still a big thing because, as you mentioned, we've seen this previously. Cody Rhodes, near the beginning of AEW's existence, had that stipulation in his match with Chris Jericho back in 2019. He lost, and he never did challenge for the Men's World Championship again. And then he was just drifting in his own little universe on the show, and he was sort of like always going to be put in that gatekeeper of the mid-card while still trying to be a star, and then eventually he went to WWE. Now, I'm not saying that Hangman is going to be the all-elite nightmare or anything. I'm not saying he's going to be in the main event of WrestleMania in 3 years, but either this guy, who is one of your top baby faces, one of your top draws, we've seen it, saw the success of the All In Texas show, the amount of pay-per-view buys that AEW received while the Hangman was the champion, these fans love him. He's a star. So if he's never challenging for that championship again, that is a real consequence. And I'm sure that deep in his soul, Tony Khan wants to try and right the wrong to prove that maybe you can do the never challenge for a championship ever again storyline and prove that they could do it right. And I think Hangman's still locked into AEW for a few more years. I can't see him ever leaving, quite frankly, but never say never, of course. But on the flip side, let's just say this is all a ruse. We have all been bamboozled. Say they go back on the stip in a couple years saying, oh, it was just Hangman's word, not an official stipulation. Then Hangman turns heel. Then you just, as we kind of mentioned, you just throw every stipulation out the window because if you show that this stipulation doesn't matter, why should any other stipulation matter? And then all of a sudden you can't have shows with these kind of stakes because if it's all bullshit, why would fans care? Why would fans pay? So either way, we got some real consequences for this show, and I think it's going to be memorable one way or another for a good reason or a bad reason.
And it's a different, I think it was a different scenario with Rhodes too, because that was done a lot more intentionally. That was done kind of in the vein of this isn't going to be like an early Jeff Jarrett and TNA. This isn't going to be, Cody's in charge. This isn't going to be a reign of terror. I think their intentions were good. When they first came up with the rule, like Cody won't challenge for the world title. I think they honestly thought this, they're gonna think he's over pushed. They're gonna think he's being forced. This is kind of a nice way to say, like, hey, he's just happy to be there. It didn't work. It's a lot tougher, I think, in this case with somebody like Hangman, where he is I shouldn't say just a wrestler, but he is a wrestler for the company. There is one caveat that is a little different compared to with Cody, where Hangman is a multiple time world champion in the past. So I don't know if maybe that does help because he has already been to the mountaintop. Again, I feel like it's too early to tell. But my initial reaction is still just because this was the one thing I was frustrated about happening. And it kind of sucks because like I thought this was a really good show. And just right at the end, I was kind of like, oh fuck. Wait, you know what bugs me? I think I was telling you about this too. I was texting you beforehand. What bugs me the most about it was like, especially like if you look at it from just a pure story, how MJF wins is super poetic and it was very well executed. It's literally just the stipulation I have the problem with because the match itself was great. From beginning, middle to end, it didn't feel like it dragged. It didn't feel too long, even though it was. I think you had mentioned 40 minutes flew by. At no point did I ever feel like, okay, let's wrap this up, which you do get the odd time with these longer matches. And yeah, again, it's just the stipulation where I'm worried how they execute it going forward. So time will tell.
Yeah, this is. I almost like. Here's the thing. Whether this is the good decision for business or not, here's the thing. This is bold. This was a remarkably bold decision. This was not playing it safe. Like we think to a few weeks ago where
Definitely
they
a choice. Yeah.
Hangman and MJF main eventing this pay-per-view. Like, remember we were talking about, okay, maybe Andrade should beat Hangman in the finals of that tournament or whatever in Grand Slam Australia. And then Hangman wins, like, okay, that's kind of safe. And then they chose not to play it safe by adding this stipulation, Texas Death, and if Hangman doesn't win, he'll never challenge for it again. And that on its own, it's bold, but as we kind of mentioned, like this is a really good show for 4.5 hours. Like it never really felt like it dragged. But it's bold in a sense because on this show, like in 4 weeks' time, we'll be in Vancouver for AEW Dynasty, the next pay-per-view event in Vancouver at the Rogers Arena. That's happening in 4 weeks on April 12th. Throughout this show, we kind of have an idea of what a good chunk of this card is going to be for that show, just by we're trying to predict on just the results and what happened on this show. There were a lot of clean victories by the bad guys, by the heels tonight, and it ended with MJF. There was no shenanigans with Swerve Strickland coming in to cost the Hangman. It wasn't Kevin Knight turning heel to turn on the Hangman. It wasn't someone debuting or returning like the first couple of instances in this show. This was MJF at Hangman's own game. We'll talk about the details later, all the gory details. Poetically He does win fair and square. And not only that, I have no idea what happens for that Dynasty show, who challenges MJF for the World Championship, because it feels like a lot of the top contenders in this big chase of who's going to challenge MJF, all the contenders seem to be preoccupied with one another. I have
They're
no idea
tied
who
up
I'm
at the moment. Yeah.
gonna defend against, because normally I'd say, well, I mean, this match was just like a blow off to end all blow offs, this Texas death match. So even that I wouldn't say run Hangman and MJF back again, but he can't because Hangman can't challenge again.
Yeah.
So it is just, yeah, a lot of bold decisions on this pay-per-view. None more bolder than to finish what we got. Just, uh, I want to, at least they didn't play it safe. I'm sure there's a lot of thought behind this. I'm sure there's a plan. Let's see how it plays out. Not to, in a, are you enjoying the show kind of way, but like, they've, like, the execution of the Death Riders storyline and Hangman winning it all in Texas, they got a little bit of goodwill with me. Like, I'll give them some rope to figure this out, but first glance, just, and we've tried to stay off social media in like the last half hour to try and form our own opinions, our own takes on this. I have no idea where this is going to go. That it would end in a favorable way. And yeah, I guess we're just here to wait and see. But I just can't believe they did it. Like, props to being bold, I suppose, but hopefully this is a good decision for business.
What I think what's tough too is if this stipulation wasn't added to the match, if you were to ask me who needed to win, I would have said MJF. And I
Mhm.
still think MJF. Like you know, I think he should be the champion right now, and I think he's doing a fantastic job with it. It's just, yeah, I don't know. Again, yeah, we've been. I'm kind of starting to circle now and saying the same thing, but
Well, I
I don't
guess like
know. I don't know, man.
like the one last little take I want to throw in there before we gracefully move on, because we do have a match to cover. Because I felt the same way when Hangman lost the AW Men's World Championship to Samoa Joe at Full Gear. I was like, wow, this is bold, but what's the vision here? Hangman was doing a great job, and then it ends up being Samoa Joe's a transitional champion to put the title on MJF, and MJF never beat Hangman over the previous year, so it makes sense for MJF to be the champion, but oh, he never beat the Hangman, so he can still do that match. And then MJF is doing a fantastic job as champion, and all these contenders are going after him, and the chase is working. So I guess that's the thing too. I'm wondering, like, I was left gobsmacked when Hangman lost the title, and then MJF and having the chase end up being like a pretty good story to follow. So I'll let it wait and see what happens, but yeah, just I'm even more shocked now than what I was on that night on Full Gear where Hangman lost the belt. So, any final thoughts before we move on here, Ace? We do have a pay-per-view to
What
cover.
I was gonna say, what do we always say? Give it a raw, baby.
Give it a fucking raw. And let's give it a cup check now. Let's go. So I guess as mentioned, a little bit of a different format here today, folks, because we we can been kind of talking about, it's Sunday night. The show began at 5. This show ended around 9:30. Ace has to be up for school, I think a dentist appointment tomorrow, and
Yeah. So it'll be a day. But
yeah, and I
I
got
feel
work.
bad for the guys on the East Coast too. Like,
Oh
geez.
my God, they're up until 12. Could you imagine back in the day, like we're going to see a WWE pay-per-view at Galaxy Cinemas in the Nimo. Could you imagine our parents picking us up at 12:30 in the morning?
Uh,
Never happening.
that's yeah,
And I got work in a
insane.
couple hours. So because, we do have work, if this is like a Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, we do everything, but we're gonna try and tighten up a little bit here. This is gonna focus just on the pay-per-view. We'll figure out a day and a time to record to talk about the rest of the lore. Ace had a huge weekend. His play just wrapped up. We need to talk about that. I was boots on the ground for Thrash Wrestling here in Kamloops at Moccasin Square Garden on the Kamloops Reserve. That was a really fun show. And there's other weekend lore. There's a lot of WWE notes as well. But just because, you know, we want to make sure you have a podcast to listen to start your week off, but we need to get some sleep here. So this is going to be focusing just on the pay-per-view. So expect something later in the week. We'll figure something out. We don't have a day yet, but for now, this is focusing on just the AW Revolution pay-per-view show. But there is a lot of stuff to cover here. So without further ado, Ace, did you catch the entire 0 hour pre-show on YouTube, or did you catch some of it, most of it, none of it?
I did actually. Yeah, no, I got home I think about 10 or so minutes before 0 hour. So I popped it on. I was doing a couple things, doing cleaning up the kitchen. So it was on sort of in the background until the pay-per-view itself actually started, but I was able to catch it all.
Alrighty, so I'll just go through my notes. I Not to be like a young Dave Meltzer here, but taking notes on just stuff that happened. If you want to chime in with anything, don't hesitate to cut me off. So,
You would compare yourself to Meltzer, wouldn't you?
oh my God, I wish I had the arms of Dave Meltzer. I mean, fuck, that guy at 60 could kick my ass. He's jacked at 60. I want to look when I'm 30. I want to look like Dave Meltzer when he's 60. Have you ever seen the pythons on that guy?
Yeah, I don't know if they're 24-inch, but they're something.
There's something. You know what? They're probably natural though. I don't think Big Dave juices.
That's fair. Yeah, I was gonna say that is fair.
Too funny. So we opened the show. Speaking of guys with big pythons, we opened with Big Boom AJ of the Costco guys teaming up with QT Marshall to take on Sean Dean and Carly Bravo of the Shane Taylor Promotions. Say what you will about Big Boom AJ, Big Justice, the Rizzler, the Costco guys. You can say, okay, the Google search trends are as equal to right before their peak as they are now, and they look like they've lost the light in their eyes, and that they have millions of followers and get barely any interaction. These AEW fans still love these Costco guys, and quite frankly, I do too, because AJ, he was a independent pro wrestler back in the day. QT Marshall recruits him to AEW at the height of his popularity. Ace, I think we talked about this. Big Boom AJ may throw the best jabs in all of wrestling. Like, this show's on YouTube for free. He throws the best elbows in all of wrestling, and honestly, he does so many other little things right. I can't get enough of this guy. Uh,
Yeah, I was gonna say I think we've mentioned in the past to our affinity for carnies, and they don't come any better than Big Boom AJ. He so to borrow from another bit of news we'll get into later in this week, if you were to build a wrestler from the ground up, uh, at least an independent one, it would be Big Boom AJ. Because yeah, that it's just it's funny because you can tell even in the Costco stuff, like when he first started getting big on TikTok, even if you didn't know he was a wrestler, you could tell he was like it's just he's such a natural with it. And then, it translates. And I mean, he's clearly built for this world. It's again one of those celebrity involvements where it just makes sense. And we got to see a Rizzler bump out of it. And that was the gift
oh,
that kept on giving.
yeah. I don't think the California State Athletic Commission was at this show. This was
Ah,
something else. But
that's why
yeah,
Vince said it was fake in the 80s, right? So
hell yeah. Yeah, well, Big Boom AJ, yeah, he throws incredible jabs, like not just for being a celebrity, but just wrestling in general. He throws a mean jab and mean hook in wrestling without actually hitting them. So one thing AJ can't do is hit dive. So he's teasing a dive, but the referee stops him because he's not the legal man. The fans are booing, but AJ's partner QT Marshall does do a drive, and throughout the match, like you talk about, like AJ being a carny. Uh, this felt like something I'd see at Thrash Wrestling or what you'd see at VIPW. This felt like an independent match, and I mean that in the most endearing way possible. AJ's just working the crowd. The crowd's having a lot of fun and just getting the most out of everything. So I don't know this woman's name, but there's this tall woman with Shane Taylor Promotions. She's taller than everyone in the match. And who should come up to her but the Rizzler? I don't know how tall the Rizzler is. He's shorter than Rey Mysterio Jr. at the very least. He comes up and he does I can't do the Riz face to save my life, but he does the Riz face to this lady. There you go. Ace has it. Ace got the Riz face down, Pat. That's how you won Brooke over, right?
exactly right.
Yep. So
Some
AJ then
what do they always say? Some guys play hard to get, I play hard to want, and that's how it went.
at least we want you. At least two people.
Exactly.
At least we want you.
All three of us. Yeah.
Are you sure you want yourself? I mean,
Well, that's for another debate. Another debate.
All right, back on track. So, QT Marshall does most of the selling. They're protecting AJ for the most part. He comes in for a hot tag. Both Carly Bravo and Sean Dean slam AJ. This is when Big Boom AJ does his best Kazuchika Okada impression. He kicks out at like 2.99. He barely gets his shoulder up. And then they're both going for a double boot on AJ. He dodges it by collapsing because he's so exhausted and damaged. Another Okada spot. And so on the outside, so before the match begins, they're talking to someone at ringside. It's Wayne Brady. Yes, that one. So I guess he's just it's a celebrity involvement. So Shane Taylor, the leader of Shane Taylor Promotions, big guy, he goes over to talk shit to Wayne Brady. Wayne Brady bitch slaps him, and then Shane Taylor throws him over the barricade. And in order to protect Wayne Brady's honor, who shows up but the Rizzler? And this is where, as Ace mentioned, Shane Taylor basically pie faces the Rizzler, throws him to the ground. This kid took a bump. Hell yeah. This one happened in Washington State. No state with an athletic commission. This ruled. And then we talked about Big Boom AJ maybe having the best jabs in all of wrestling. Big Justice, his kid, may have the best spear in all of wrestling. He may be getting up to Braun Breaker in a few years. He spears Shane Taylor right out of his boots. Hell yeah, to Big Justice. You can do that thing remarkably well. And eventually, AJ does finally hit that dive off the top rope onto all members of Shane Taylor Promotions on the outside. AJ and QT hit the Boomsday device, which is a doomsday device, but instead of a lariat, it's a neck breaker. And they get the win. Ace, I don't need to see it every week, but every like quarter, as on a pre-show, I can always have a good dose of Big Boom AJ and get a good laugh out of it, or get a good smile out of it, I should say.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we could do like a Q3, Q4, every few months. It's nice though, because it's not one of those celebrity involvements where you feel like, oh, this is kind of taking up time. It's lighthearted, it's fun, it's on the pre-show, no harm, no foul. And honestly, I enjoyed it. I thought it
Yeah,
was funny. So
Big Boom AJ is not in the main event. He's not Travis Scott. He's not Jelly Roll in the main event scene. This is built on Reign of Honor. This is fine. This is fine. It's on the pre-show. I'm okay with this. And
he's
AJ,
not an A, but
that's
he's a solid B plus, and that's a good little spot for him.
not for him. All right, moving on to the pre-show. Willow Nightingale defending the TBS Championship against Lana Cross. This is mostly just a match because, Willow and Lana, they're pulling double duty tonight because there's a storyline that leads to this. So Willow is defending against Lana. Lana hits a belly to back suplex onto Willow, and Willow starts just selling her shoulder. Remember that because it plays into later in the night. Lana gets Willow into a fireman's carry and hits a cutter for a good near fall. She goes for a split-legged moonsault. Willow dodges. She eventually hits a backslide and wins. That's old school. That's indie right there. So Willow retains the TBS championship in a relatively quick, easy match. Lana and Megan Bain, they beat down Willow after the match because they're challenging Willow and Harley Cameron for the AW Women's World Tag Team Championships. They beat down Willow. Harley comes in with a lead pipe for the save. I thought they were hinting at a heel turn for old Harley, the love of my life. Thankfully, it didn't happen here. It didn't happen on this night. Maybe it's something that happens in the future here, but this was all just basically to set up a storyline a little bit later. Excuse me, Morty, in the show. Ace, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to judge this in a vacuum just because it was used to set up an angle later in the night. But I think for what it was for a midway preview match or pre-show match, I think it did what they needed to do. And again, yeah, it plays into the injury that we would see in the main card later on.
And the final match, speaking of the main card, we have a pre-show slash main card match. It's a 21-man blackjack battle royal for the AEW National Championship. Ricochet is defending against 20 other men. That's not fair. Truth be told, I kind of tuned out a little bit of this match just because, well, it's a battle royal, and for the most part, for the first half of these matches, until you get to like the final few people, it's just a lot of people just hanging around the ring, not a lot of space to do stuff. People are just getting eliminated. The first notable spot I saw, Daniel Garcia eliminates Commander, Luchador, by removing his mask while on apron. And Tommaso Ciampa, who just turned heel like 2 weeks ago, he eliminates Daniel Garcia for a huge pop. That was weird. I note that they're in Los Angeles, so they love Roosh, former top guy in the CMLL and just a very cool wrestler who's kind of complicated. So the pre-show is ending with Tommaso Ciampa getting eliminated, and then the pay-per-view itself opens. And AEW's done this before. They've done this like twice in the past, where they had the pre-show on TNT or TBS, like on television, and then they're trying to sell this TV audience to buy the pay-per-view, and they'd have a match kind of go near the end of the pre-show, but then bleed over into the main card, and they still have the pyro and everything going off to start the main card while there's a match halfway going through. It's kind of like an old WCW Nitro throwback.
I was gonna say it felt very Nitro. I liked it.
Yeah, I've seen this too many times now. Like, they've done this is like the third time they've done in the last couple months. Every now and then it's fine. Like they did the last two times they did this. I like this. I think it was Speedball and Speedball and Kevin Knight taking on FTR, and it was a really good match. And that was like the first time they did that. I'm like, oh, okay. The second time they did it, it was a trios match with Kazuchika Okada entering right at the end of the pre-show, and then that's just like, oh, Okada's here. You gotta buy this pay-per-view now. And so I like it. I don't know if it needed to be here, but I do like the concept of throwing this every now and then. I do like the Nitro feel to it, as you mentioned there, Ace. I don't know what happened. Juice Robinson, I think, was the one who eliminated Tommaso Ciampa, and then he's just gone from the match. I think he got eliminated during the transition period of the end of the pre-show to the start of the main card. The show's opening with the Pyro and Jack Perry and Ricochet and El Clone doing some crazy action. Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Ricochet are the final two. Jack wins with a Poison Rana on the apron, eliminates Ricochet. Jack Perry is the new national champion in his hometown of Los Angeles, in the same building where he was seen at SummerSlam with Luke Perry, his late father. He wins a title and celebrates with his family. I thought this was a nice little wholesome opening to the show.
Yeah, I was actually really happy with this match, and it was a bit strange. I found I didn't like just everyone not in the ring. I get obviously you don't want to overcrowd it. It always kind of throws me off. But outside of that, yeah, I think the right guy won. The one thing I was going to mention too is just we were joking obviously about the length with this and how we were going to be able to finish it with the podcast afterwards. And I think I made the joke that instead of 10 matches now there's 10 and a half matches for the main card. But no, I think the way it ended too, with a nice feel good moment, hometown kid winning. I mean, what else can you ask for, right? No, this was a good one for me.
Well, you can't ask for anything more than that, literally, because we had a chance at another nice hometown moment, but we did not get that. So I guess really the opening show, the true opening match of this pay-per-view was FTR defending the AEW Men's World Tag Team Championships against the Young Bucks. Short and sweet. I thought that this is probably the best match these two have ever had with each other. Going back to like 2020, where I think they wanted to have their match of the year, but it was during the COVID-19 pandemic, where obviously you can't have a full crowd in Daly's place. I think there's maybe 1,000 people there at the time. They have their rematches. They're really good, but this felt like a grudge match. The stories going in is that FTR is messing with the Young Bucks family. They gave a pile driver, I think, to their brother. They hit their father and their mother, or shoved their mother, I should say. And so, yeah, families involved in this grudge match. The Young Bucks have their children narrate a video before their entrance, and all 6 of the Young Bucks kids come out for their entrance. I'm just thinking, okay, we saw the Rizzler take a bump. Either FTR needs to hit a pile driver on one of these 6 kids, or they need to super kick Stokely Hathaway or something. But we didn't get that. Maybe that's for the best, but that's where my sicko mind went after the Rizzler took a bump. But what are you going to do? And then eventually, I'm sure Ace, your boy Chase, was at this show. He's a good LA kid. FTR comes out to Boston Celtics colors in Los Angeles, Geez, I wonder who we should boo.
Yeah, nice touch. Nice touch.
Nice touch. They're old school. And then Stokely, I don't know if you noticed this. Stokely's made fun of being bald. I don't know if he can just naturally grow that hair. He had like the shaded kind of hair. It felt like
Mhm.
LeBron James trying to counteract his baldness. That's the kind of vibe I got from old Stoke. I don't know if this is fake or not, but that kind of got a pop out of me. Uh, yeah, this was a great match. Just a couple of things to talk about here. Nick Jackson in the same building where Eddie Guerrero famously did he nearly Ace, you know this better than me because you remember Eddie Guerrero lore better than I can. Did Eddie lose like a third of his blood or something in that match with JBL in this building in 2004? Didn't he almost die or something after losing that amount of blood?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a third. They had said when after a chair shot he gigged himself and had a vein.
Artery.
And after they yeah, I remember once he was at the hospital, they said like if he was there like half an hour sooner, he probably would have died. So it's yeah. So Nick Jackson was giving him a run for his money there.
Yeah, Nick Jackson, I don't think he bled that much, but he gushed. So Nick Jackson tries to do a dive to the outside. FTR catches him. They throw him face first into the announce table. Nick Jackson says, "It's time to bleed. It's a family grudge match." He cuts himself. I don't think he cuts a vein or an artery like Eddie Guerrero did way back when, but he's just gushing blood. Match continues. Nick hits a missile drop kick on one member of FTR and then lands on the other as a senton, so that's pretty cool. On the outside, Matt Jackson's kids pumping him up from the outside. Eventually, pardon me, is on the outside trying to do a spot like a springboard shot. He's on the outside in the apron though. Dax grabs his foot, drags him down, and then Dax grabs Matt and mocks him in front of his kids, his brother, his parents, and everything. Eventually, you called him the Cooper Manning of the Jackson brothers.
I did. What is that, man? Oh, he just very unlucky there, especially in the hair department. Not that, I'm one to talk, but oh, buddy, like,
No, we're not ones to
man.
talk, but like you look at and like, hey, Nick Jackson has like a little bit of a bald spot, a faint one, but then he has his hairline going back just a little bit. Matt has the best hair of the brothers, but so the one Jackson brother who did not become a wrestler, Malachi is his name. He he has nothing on the top of his head, and then he's still got stubble on the sides and back. He looks 20 years older than both of his brothers. I
He
hate
just
it.
looks like a dude. Just
He
like
looks
just like a dude.
he
Yeah.
looks like someone that you would probably see at your town's dive bar. He's like
Yeah.
the most well-kept guy at the dive bar, mind you, but
Your
so
mechanic, your no, your bus driver, like
yep.
he just looks like a dude, which is I guess kind of cool. But yeah, yeah. The
It's
Cooper
like
Cooper Manning.
maybe you know how you always say you had a buddy or we have a buddy who owns a boat and you always say you don't want to be the guy with the boat, you want to be the guy who knows the guy with the boat. So maybe whole
That is,
Malachi
yes.
Jackson here is just
I know that we're a little pressed for time, but I do feel the need to explain it because I've always been a firm believer in this analogy. So as the adage goes, you don't want to be the guy with the boat. You want to be the guy that knows the guy with the boat. Because you both go out on the boat. You pick a Sunday, you say, "Hey, Aaron, you want to come on my boat?" And you go, "Great." So when you're that guy, you get to show up, you bring the case of beer, and guess what? You're both on the boat. Now, if you're the guy with the boat, you're paying the insurance, you're gassing it up, you got to park it somewhere. Any bit of maintenance that's on you. But guess what? When you're both on there out there together, you're both using it. So you always want to be the guy that knows the guy with the boat because you have none of the responsibility of owning a boat. And yeah, I guess that's what I think of Cooper Jackson,
Cooper
the
Jackson,
the
Malachi
third buck,
Manning.
Malachi
Yep.
Manning.
So I'm sure he does very well for himself. I'm sure he has a good living, but if he's ever in a pinch, he doesn't have wrestling money, but he knows guys who have taken bumps to earn wrestling money. So you know what? Good for So anyways, he throws his beer into Dax Harwood's face, and that's how he's involved in this match.
Because of course he's got a beer. You know what I mean? Like he's got a beer. Of course he does. In a red solo cup in.
This is
I don't know if I
how
know sometimes on the floor they make you pour it into those solo cups, but yeah.
So this is how he numbs himself. This is how Malachi Jackson numbs himself, knowing that he's not the third young buck. He just
Right.
was drinking his beer. Anyway, so afterwards, Dax Harwood and like talk about knowing how to be bad guys. So like they're in Boston Celtics colors that FTR is. They know that these AEW fans kind of lean towards more towards Bret Hart in the Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels debate, as I'm sure most of our Canadian listeners of Cup Check side with Bret Hart. Dax Harwood is going for a super kick, like how the Young Bucks go for super kicks, but he's tuning up the band. He's stomping the mat like Shawn Michaels, and these fans in Los Angeles are booing him out of the building. I think it's Nick is the one who catches him, puts him in a sharpshooter like Bret Hart, and the fans are cheering. And then I think Matt puts Cash in the other sharpshooter, and FTR loves this spot more than we love. Well, I don't know. I don't think we love anything. I don't even think you love Brooke as much as FTR loves this spot. Anytime they're both in submissions, they grab each other's hands to prevent each other from tapping out. Dax is slapping, pardon me, Cash is slapping Dax in the face like, no, get a hold of yourself. Get to the rope. And then they crawl to the rope, and you message me, technically that's a tap. And then I say,
It felt
referee's
like a tap. I don't know. Yeah, it did feel like a tap.
It's referee's discretion. I think he's just trying to get his boy warmed up. I think Cash was. He didn't say I give up. He didn't say I'm letting go. I think he was just trying to get Dax riled up to get
He's
to
just
the
saying,
rope.
get your fucking head in the game. Yeah.
Precisely. So eventually Dax hits a slingshot powerbomb to Matt. The Bucks, this is the crazy spot of the match, I thought. The Bucks are suplexing FTR to the outside, but poor Matt and Dax's foot gets caught in the top rope. And so while Nick and Cash go perfectly vertically right behind themselves, Matt and Dax kind of go like horizontally to the side during the suplex. I thought that something may have happened to Matt's leg there, but they're all okay. Uh, Nick Jackson is bleeding so much at this point. He tries to get up, but he legitimately slips on a pool of his own blood. That was disgusting, but not the most disgusting thing we've seen on the show. Uh, the Young Bucks are going for the Meltzer driver, but Matt gets shoved to the side. Nick, on the springboard, he falls into a shatter machine. Great near fall. He finds a way to kick out. FTR then hit Nick with a BTE trigger. FTR are excellent pro wrestlers. They can't do this BTE trigger to save their lives, unfortunately. But Nick kicks out at one. The crowd's going completely bananas at this point. And this is my favorite spot of the match. So if you've ever been seen a wrestling show ever, you've probably seen the boo, yeah spot where the heel punches and you boo, and then the babyface punch and you yell, yeah. So FTR tries to do this. The Young Bucks say, fuck this, and just do a super kick party and are just kicking FTR all over the place. Crowd's going wild. Nick hits a tope suicida to Stokely on the outside into his wheelchair. That's the thing. Stokely at some point gets out of his wheelchair. He's been wheelchair bound for months. And like Kevin Nash famously on Nitro, where he had the blanket over a fake cast, Stokely
It's a
gets up.
miracle, Schultze.
Nigel McGuinness said it was a miracle, and maybe he's right. So the Young Bucks hit a Meltzer driver and a BT trigger. Somehow this does not get the job done. Eventually, FTR hits an avalanche shatter machine for the win. This may be the best tag team match of the year. Already here in March, this is the best match ever between these two all-time great teams. Two big thumbs up for me. Ace, any other thoughts, any other spots, or your overall thoughts on the match?
No, yeah, that was I think we covered most of it there. Really good opener, really solid opener. I was worried going into it just because we had seen this already a few times before and how it was gonna be. I'm sure we'll get to it in a second here. At first I was a little, I won't say off put, but confused at not having the hometown kids win. But as we see a couple minutes later, sort of the why for that.
Yeah. So great match. I gotta say, like in a week where I've seen tremendous matches like Speedball Mike Bailey against Kyle Fletcher on Dynamite, and On Collision, I watched this morning Andrade taking on Mascara Dorada. This might have been the best match I've seen this week. 2 thumbs up. And so, yeah, it was weird that the Young Bucks, the hometown sort of crowd, because Rancho Cucamonga, their hometown, is just a few miles east. Uh, they don't win, but who should return but the Rated R superstar, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. Last time we saw them was, well, I was there for the show in All Out Toronto, where they get the big win over FTR. Unfortunately, Adam Copeland's wife, Beth Copeland, the former Beth Phoenix in WWE, I think FTR hits them with like a pile driver of some sorts. And so that's where Adam Copeland felt he needed to take time off, but I think he was just shooting the movie. Anyways, they return. I think Christian, he's kind of he's not a heel per se, but he has not changed his old cowardly character whatsoever. He sneaks up behind both these FTR guys and sprays one of them with a hairspray or something. I think he hits the Unprettier to Dax, and then I think eventually does it to Stokely as well. They hold the AEW Men's World Tag Team Championships, and then the Young Bucks are behind them. They sort of have a brief stare off, but nothing too confrontational. Then they drop the belts. Say what you will about Adam Copeland and maybe shaking off the ring rust after he broke his leg doing a dive off the steel cage in 2024, and all this discourse online about him. These fans in real life still love this guy. He's still Edge. He's still this all-time legend. And these fans loved him. And I think the way that this is going, I don't know if all 3 teams are involved or if it's just Adam Copeland and Christian Cage taking on FTR, but I think this leads to the 2 Canadian boys, Cope and Cage, challenging for these AEW Men's World Tag Team Championships at AEW Dynasty in Vancouver in front of you and me and our loved ones. And I'm looking forward to this. Ace, how about you?
Yeah, 100% too. It was interesting because at first I thought with FTR retaining that, oh, okay, well, they'll beat FTR for the tag titles, but then at the end with the Bucks, now kind of what I'm leaning towards is I feel like they'll do some sort of TLC nod, some kind of triple threat tag, whether that's with ladders. I think that's kind of the road they're going with now, which again, I don't see that as a problem at all. And hopefully when we are there in person, we can see our boys bring it home for our motherland.
Elbows up, baby. Yep. I think if Edge and Christian have to end their careers, it would have to be in the TLC match, and I don't think anyone can help them deliver that more than Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks. So we'll see what happens. But no, good to see Cope and Cage back. I'm looking forward to them having the chance to sing Edge's theme song twice, Metalingus by Alter Bridge. It's a banner. And Adam Copeland's gotten the Chris Jericho Fozzy treatment where the fans sing along to his song. Genuinely one of the most fun experiences out there. So I think we'll have a blast for Dynasty there. Unless Vancouver decides to boot Cope, which, I don't know, he wore Canucks gear before. I think Vancouver should be pretty much beloved for Adam Copeland, I suppose.
I'll say, yeah, cross that bridge when we get there.
Yep. They did, at the Collision show I saw 2 years ago in Vancouver, they did turn on Cope, but you know what? He was facing good old Delta boy Kyle O'Reilly, so what are you going to do? I think it'll all be water under the bridge. Or water under the fridge. We're going to keep it Canadian here. All right, next match. I sent this message to you before this match began. I'd say that Toni Storm may have a case for being the GOAT if she got the fans to care about this. So it's a total death spot afterwards. It's Toni Storm taking on Marina Shafir. Everyone is banned from ringside. So I can't still say Marina's quite good, but she has improved a lot over the last couple of years, and she's been doing the indie shows like in Defy and Seattle. So it's kind of just a match for the most part, and then there's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. So Marina is kicking Toni in front of the announce table. Eventually, Toni dodges, and Marina Shafir, you know what? Former MMA fighter, I'm sure she's been in more painful situations. She kicks this announce table so fucking hard after Toni dodges. I cringe just because if I just bonk my foot into my counter or something, I'm just toast for the whole week, it feels like. So after Marina kicks this announce table hard, and and Marina wrestles barefoot too. That's the other thing we should get across. Tony then bites Marina's foot not once, but twice. I would never. I don't like feet. And so Tony hits a bunch of snap suplexes, hits 3 hip attacks on Marina. Marina is asking on the third time, come on, give me your best shot. And Tony hits a 3rd hip attack on Marina. And to be fair to Marina, I too would take 3 hip attacks from Tony Storm. Not really, though,
So
because
not feet, but you are into posteriors, it sounds like.
I mean,
Learning more and more about you every day, all these years, and we're still finding out things about each other.
it's why we're able to make this friendship work.
It's how we keep it going, yeah.
We keep it spicy. But actually, I don't think I would because Tony Storm has very wide hips. If you're picking up why I'm laying down, and also Tony Storm lays in her hip attacks into the corner. I think she'd actually break my neck, so I don't think I should take a 3rd, let alone 1 hip attack from Tony. Marina's better suited for this than I am. So Marina eventually she's going for the mother's milk submission. So it's think of a rear naked choke, but like kind of inverted, where the front is facing the chest, like you're drinking from mother's milk. However, Tony Storm takes this literally. She bites Marina's tit. I don't look at me. That's exactly what happens. She's biting.
Yeah, there's really no
Marina
other way to
Shafir's
say it.
breast. Yeah, she's biting Marina Shafir's breast, and then she hits a small package for the win. I'm not sure this is like a great match, but this was a lot of fun, and these folks love Tony Storm. And Ace, you had a really good point about how, sometimes in a very tough spot on a show, if you have goodwill with the fans and they're liking what you're doing, sometimes they'll help you out in situations like this.
Oh, 100%. Because I was even telling you this, this was kind of one that I really like Tony, but it was just one of those where I wasn't super into it. But yeah, I was thinking that with you because the fans kind of brought me back and, they were a little more into it than I was. But you kind of get away with that you know, when the fans are on your side. I feel like, not to just compare this with WWE, but in a lot of times where they're not necessarily in the best books with their fans. They don't give you those get me's, it's always it's a got you kind of relationship. Where here it's like, no, like, yeah, well, So I think that's kind of one of the benefits you get from, really kind of fostering that, no pun intended, but that revolution together, right? Is, they're like all
Hey,
for one and one for all. Fuck yeah, let's go Tony.
hey, bada bing. And speaking of decision that may not be endearing to AW fans, who should come in the middle of the ring when Tony Storm's on the stage celebrating? But rowdy Ronda Rousey, the former UFC star, the former main eventer of WrestleMania, the former multi-time women's champion. As soon as the fans realize who this is in the middle of the ring, they are booing Ronda out of the frickin' building for various reasons I'm sure we can get to here. But just to get through the story, she's basically challenging Tony Storm to come back in the middle of the ring. Tony Storm is marching in, and during the pull apart, Marina Shafir gets Tony with a cheap shot. Marina and Ronda leave through the crowd, and then the Death Riders theme pops up because they're transitioning to Jon Moxley making his entrance to defend the AEW Continental Championship against Konosuke Takeshita. Ace, I don't know if Ronda Rousey is all elite, but we saw Ronda Rousey in All Elite Wrestling. What did you think when you saw this, and where's your mind going?
Yeah, it wasn't super endearing to me either. Uh, yeah, I don't know. This is an interesting one. Yeah, I don't know who still has the Ronda stocks in the Big 26. Obviously there's some other stuff that's not so fun. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it. I mean, I think messaged you as well about it. It makes sense, LA kid. But yeah, I don't know. Not that I'm not a big believer in second chances, but I don't know. Not even just that, you sort of burnt a few bridges on the way out of the business the last time you were here. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not big on this move. Um, yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of
Well, it's funny
where I'll
about
leave it.
the burn the bridges aspect. So, of course, you mentioned she leaves, and when she leaves WWE in 2023, she does herself no favors really to WWE. I mean, she's ready to just leave that bridge entirely behind her. I think we can talk about WWE, her WWE lore in just a second, but recently she's appeared in the headlines. She's having this big fight coming up with Gina Carano, like kind of like this old MMA dream match that never really happened. And so this is going to be on Netflix. So Ronda Rousey being a part of this and then having some pretty disparaging comments to the UFC, not Dana White, but UFC in general. She's back in the headlines now. And she has taken a paycheck from Tony Khan before. So I was at AW Revolution back in 2023. And during that same week I'm in LA, Ronda Rousey's doing a house show in like, oh, I don't know my LA geography, but it's kind of like near the hood of where Dodgers Stadium is, and I'm staying in like Hawthorne. So this is like a freaking trek for me to get over there. I'm like, should I? Should I? But I do Universal Studios instead. And I'm like, that'd been nice though. But I'm at Friday night Rampage and Collision at the Kia Forum, and I stick around for Ring of Honor because they hint earlier in the taping that Marina Shafir's supposed to be in a tag team match against Athena and Billy Starks, and it hints that she's calling someone. I'm like, it can't possibly be Ronda Rousey. It can't be. But Lord behold, Ronda Rousey has a one-time appearance for Ring of Honor. She teams with Marina Shafir. They take on Athena and Billy Starks, and immediately she gets a huge pop. But there's like maybe 4,000 or 5,000 people at the show to begin with, and then it's Ring of Honor. It's after all the AWTV's done. There's like maybe a third of this crowd left. And so there's a we want Ronda, no, we don't chant. And like I want to say this is like 60-70% in favor against Ronda, I should say. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that because, I think the one that folks stick on is that, for the longest time, well, following the Sandy Hook shootings, like back in 2012 or so, Ronda Rousey shared a post that kind of she was a Sandy Hook truther for a little bit. Eventually, she did apologize for it, but she had that label for well over a decade. And then, as you mentioned, like her WWE lore, she debuts in 2018, like to some fanfare, but kind of loses her mind once the WWE fans are starting to boo Ronda a little bit, like after she has a match with Charlotte Flair and Charlotte beats her up and they're saying, thank you, Charlotte. Like they turned on Ronda. And then there's the feud with Becky Lynch. And then the fans are again behind Becky and Ronda's just losing her mind. Eventually she just goes on some rant on social media saying wrestling is fake while she's one of the women's champions. It is a complicated legacy. I don't know if there's another program to work out with. Like if there's a match to happen, it'd be like maybe Ronda Rousey and Marina Shafir against Mina Shirakawa and Toni Storm. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like the AEW fan base isn't on board with Ronda yet, but I don't know if anything's salvageable. But or maybe it's just like because after she had her left WWE, she had a kid, tried to come back just to prove that she could do it, and then her quality took a notable dip afterwards. I don't know if it was exactly because of that, but it did not look nearly as good, or she did not look nearly as good in the ring. So Ronda has a very complicated legacy. I don't know if there's anything more to add, Ace, or if there's anything else that really bugs you, because maybe I'm just glossing over too much and I'm not really emphasizing any point to why fans may not be big for Ronda Rousey to return. Is there anything else that really stuck with you?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Um, for me, I think a lot of it too is just the attitude of, like you said, for someone who claims to know that wrestling's fake, sure fucking took it personal when, she wasn't the white knight hero babyface. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I'm not a huge Ronda fan and I don't want to, uh, completely just shit on this because I'm sure there are some people who are excited. I know there's gonna obviously a few people who share the sentiment, but unfortunately, I fall in the latter, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm just not huge on this move. But we'll see where it goes.
I gotta say, it's wild since like I remember in 2015, the last WrestleMania I was at, it was in the Bay Area, and she does this angle with The Rock. She's front row for WrestleMania. Everyone in the building knows who Ronda Rousey is. I think she's still the UFC champion at that point. And they
Oh,
set
this
up
is
this,
peak of her popularity.
oh,
Yeah, 100%.
not even close, at the peak. And she was getting bigger chance than The Rock in 2015 when they're teasing this angle with
Yeah.
those two and Triple H and Steph. And it's wild to see a decade later. I know she's got some headlines now with this fight coming up with Gina Carano, but the popularity dipping over the year. It's like over the last decade, I want to say, unlike nothing I've ever seen before. Okay, let's get the road back on the show. John Moxley defending the AEW Continental Championship against Konosuke Takeshita. There's some good work. It takes some time to get going. Takeshita's in a headlock, but hits a Blue Thunder Bomb on Mox. Mox hits this drop kick in the corner, but Takeshita springs right back up to hit a power knee. This is like when you notice, both the Don Callis family and the Death Riders in this feud both have kind of been tweeners. Some getting cheered more than the other. This one, though, Mox is definitely the bad guy after being a good guy for a little bit, and Takeshita's getting cheered. Mox hits a curb stomp on the apron. Takeshita's bleeding. He's grabbing near his black eye that Claudio gave to him a few weeks ago on Collision. Takeshita powers up at the outside. On the outside, he's being counted out, but he breaks the count of 9 to get right back into the ring after taking this curb stomp. But he goes right into a pile driver by John Moxley. Still finds a way to kick out. Eventually, Takeshita's biting Moxley on the top rope and hits an exploder suplex. Takeshita biting Mox, giving him a taste of his own medicine, I should say. Hits a power drive knee. I thought that was going to be it. It was a great near fall. Mox hits a cutter on Takeshita, but Takeshita, with the bloody, black, crazy eye, gets up. He's looking not like Vince McMahon, bloody face, crimson mask, looking at Hulk Hogan back at WrestleMania 19, but still pretty dastardly, though. I like that look a lot. Takeshita rolls out of a Death Rider attempt, and he hits the forearm, hits a Raging Fire. Another fantastic near fall. I thought that was going to be it. And then Takeshita's going for the power drive knee one more time, but his knee gives out. Mox was working on it throughout the entire match. Mox hits a Death Rider for a near fall. Then he hits an Avalanche Death Rider for another near fall. I thought that was going to be it. Takeshita kicks out. They give him everything before they eventually beat him. Mox going for a rear naked choke. Takeshita's flipping him off in defiance, but Moxley hooks his leg around Takeshita's arm, puts the choke in, and poor Takeshita, you've never seen a guy look so sad. Knowing he's fucked. He's fucked for life. He's so sad as eventually he knows he can't escape. He can't escape. He passes out and loses. Unlike John Cena, he does not give up. He falls on his sword. John Moxley is still the Continental Champion. Ace, it took a while to get going. I thought this match was flipping fantastic, though. Poor Takeshita, but John Moxley might be the fucking man. I don't know.
He could be. He do be. Yeah, no, I was happy with the result. I know I think there's just kind of where the story was going, and even the last, a couple of weeks ago at Grand Slam when we saw the audible called in the ring there on Mox, saying like, no, let's send him home happy. I think we kind of thought that he'd probably be losing it here. I'm kind of glad he didn't. I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a good spot for him. Not that, to put him in that thing that I'm sure we'll get to again in a bit with that, kind of gatekeeper of the mid cards now, like Cody had for a bit there. But I think it's a good spot. I think it's a good use for him. And I think there's more mileage that you can get with Moxley as champ here. Plus, I feel like they're going after Okada anyways, after this. So yeah, I was happy with Mox winning.
I just realized maybe Moxley could challenge MJF for the championship next month. Now that I'm really thinking about it. I know he already has a belt, but what's better than one belt? 2, right? But yeah, no, I like that story just because I think there's something to tell here, because Takeshita does not want his Don Callis family to interfere. He wants to earn it on his own, and he lost. So I'm sure he's going to get a bunch of the business because of that. I'm sure Kazuchika Okada is going to make fun of him from that, to which he'll say, you also lost a belt, and maybe that's probably the path they're going to go to. But yeah, John Moxley, I mean, this guy's the man, and you know what? He made Hangman a super duper star by putting him over at All in Texas, and then he lost again to Kyle O'Reilly, who's unfortunately injured. So I'm sure whoever John Moxley's going to lose this belt to, whoever beats him will be way better off for it. And so Moxley's going for the handshake. Takeshita initially blows him off, but before he leaves the ring, he comes back in and shakes his hand. So I think we are going to get this Konosuke Takeshita babyface turn sooner rather than later. But to continue the theme of returns and debuts in AEW, before the Death Riders can leave, there's a video playing of a guy in this in this healing pod, kind of like Goku in Dragon Ball Z. Will Ospreay, fresh off neck surgery a couple of months ago, he's back. He's a maniac. He hits Jon Moxley with like a hidden blade. He's fighting off all the Death Riders. He's doing like twisting dives to the outside. He looks cool. He looks a couple pounds lighter. I'm not sure if that's just because of neck surgery or if that's a conscious decision, but he looks ready to go. It felt like this guy healed like Wolverine. Great to see Will Ospreay back. It feels like we're getting Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley at Dynasty. Now that I think about it, Jon Moxley probably can't challenge MJF for the championship because he probably has to defend against Will Ospreay now. Great to see the Billy Goat back. Ace, any thoughts on what this program will probably lead to? It seems like we're getting this match, but just having Will Ospreay back.
Yeah, no, obviously it's a welcome return. And you're right. Hopefully that is I feel like that's where they're going, but hopefully that is one of the matches that we get to see in person at Dynasty.
Unbelievable. Cope and Cage against FTR and maybe the Bucks, and then Moxley and Ospreay. We got a good show already. Moving on, the AEW Women's World Tag Team Championships are on the line. Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale defending against Lana Cross and Megan Bayne. So they begin with like Renee Paquin, the backstage, interviewing Willow from the trainer's room. She's getting work done on her shoulder. They're kind of hinting that she's not 100% because of this TBS Championship match. So they cut off Willow early. Megan Bayne and Lana Cross are just attacking Harley. She hits a tilt-a-whirl DDT. I think this is on Lana. And eventually there's a lukewarm hot tag for this one shoulder Willow Nightingale, but eventually Lana and Megan hit a double chokeslam on Willow for the win. This was not really a squash, but it was brief, it was short, it was one-sided and definitive. We got new AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, Lana Cross and Megan Bayne, in a very long show with a lot of matches. This is a very much needed squash for this Amazon kind of team. So 2 big thumbs up. I hope that Penelope Ford wasn't supposed to be the tag team champions because that's just another spell of bad luck with her dealing with her ankle sprain. But 2 big thumbs up to this and 2 big thumbs up to delaying the inevitable heartbreak of me having to see Harley turn on Willow. But we'll cross that bridge. Hopefully never. But your thoughts on this?
Yeah,
Ace?
I think you're good for a bit there. I don't necessarily see that coming super soon. But yeah, I think this was a good move for, especially for Willow Knight. I don't know, like I'm not huge, and I find that with AEW a lot of times too, they'll do double champions where you've got like a tag set and a belt, and yeah, I don't know. I've never been huge on it. If you do it once in a while, maybe it's not the end of the world. But I feel like and there's just so many fucking titles in the company. It's sometimes you get a lot of that overlap, but you'll see that where, I mean, even with the trios, I mean, we'll get to that in a bit too, but
Mhm.
even with the trios championship, in the Don Callis family, where it's like Okada's got his own title, Fletcher's got his, like, I don't know. I like, especially for tag belts, when they're a tag team that's there to be a tag team because they're a tag team, like FTR, like the Bucks, like they're tag teams. And I think with Willow Nightingale having the TBS title as well, and as we saw in the pre-show, obviously with the retention, I prefer when there's not quite as many double champions because it seems to be a bit of a recurring theme with AEW. So the more we can steer away from that, I think the better. And as you had mentioned too, just with the length of this match, it was a welcome addition to a 10 card show.
Mm-hmm. This next match was probably somewhere in the mushy middle between the long match and the short match. Swerve Strickland taking on Big Bad Brody Kane. It's a mean guy match. It's a lot of back and forth for the most part until Brody hits a Uranagi on the outside. So they remove the mats from the concrete floor. Brody hits a Uranagi onto the outside and then a black hole slam. Shout out to our boy Abyss. Old Chris Park, as some folks know him on Unreal, but to us, he's always the monster Abyss. And so Swerve hits Brody with a powerbomb on the apron. So Swerve removes the turnbuckle pad from one of the bottom turnbuckles. It looks like he's going to curb stomp Brody's teeth. Like he's gonna curb stomp him like teeth first into the exposed buckle. Brody is powering out though. He stands up, he powers through. He then hits a cannonball into a corner, hits a cross body diving right from the top. Eventually, though, Swerve hits Brody with a vertebreaker on the outside in the area without padding, similar to how Swerve took out Kenny Omega nearly a month ago. Swerve gets on the inside because Brody Kane is big and scary. Swerve is absolutely okay with taking a count out win. He will take him how he can get him here against old Brody here. Brody does get in, but Swerve hits the Swerve Stomp. Only gets a 1 count, though. That was cool. And just like how on Dynamite this week, when Swerve tried to choke Brody with the chain, Brody ripped the chain apart, and Swerve got these big old bug eyes like, oh shit, I fucked up. And he got those similar bug eyes after Brody kicked out of the Swerve Stomp. Uh, Brody's not going down after multiple house calls, but the third one does take him out. Swerve Strickland does beat Brody Kane. I think this makes sense because there's more lined up for Swerve, but sucks our boy Brody has to lose clean here. One of the multiple instances of a heel winning clean on this show, but makes sense for Swerve. Hopefully, I think we said this a couple times now over the last few months. Hopefully, this is not the end for Brody. Hopefully, there's a plan for him for Dynasty in Vancouver. But Ace, your thoughts on the match and the paths that are going to follow?
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate because we were kind of in a position where you really couldn't have Swerve lose, especially after just turning. Um, that being said, I don't know. I don't necessarily see, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I don't necessarily see this as the end for Brody. I think him just getting a chance to kind of hang with this echelon of talent is a good thing. So yeah, so we'll see kind of where or what the route is after this. Whether that be back in a title picture, whether because as we find out in a again our recurring theme of the night in a few minutes, that Swerve's gonna be busy, I feel like, come Dynasty in Vancouver as well.
Yeah, so Kenny Omega, who could not compete on this show because he was trying to get out of the last day of the Capcom Cup event here in Tokyo. So Swerve is gonna stomp Brody through a cinder block. Kenny Omega comes out to make the save, so it appears that's gonna be Swerve against Kenny, likely at Dynasty in Vancouver. Uh, yeah, so it seems like that's the path. That's the thing. I criticized WWE for it, so I feel like I gotta be fair. I don't like it when they try and make it seem like, oh, you're in these matches against these top talents. That's your push. Brody, and I know he did beat MJF once upon a time, like 2 months ago or a month ago. Brody Kane does need wins against top guys soon. And while this one, I feel like they kind of painted themselves in the corner by needing Swerve to win because he had just turned heel and he's going to be having a match with Kenny Omega. Find a way for Brody to get some wins because you cannot, like, I'm sure the fans will always love him, but eventually, if he starts losing, if he's a losing loser who does nothing but lose, there's a difference between the fans liking you but not getting behind you. And I want the fans to still be behind Brody. I feel like they still got something here. The lightning and ball, it's starting to get a little bit loose. So act on it sooner
Yeah.
rather than later.
Yeah, whatever the direction is for him after this, he should 100% be winning. I think we can say without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely. So on a 10 match show, it's a 2 out of 3 falls match. Tekla defending the AW Women's World Championship against Chris Statlander. Poor Chris coming out to zero pop. Has been the case over the last couple months of her story and her character, but eventually these women work hard to earn the crowd's support at the end. So Chris lifts Tekla up for a very high vertical suplex on the top rope. Tekla is going to strap Chris with her belt, but the referee, Paul Turner, steps in. This is where we're having a little bit of a fun back and forth via message. So Tony Schiavone on commentary says, "Oh, of course Tekla doesn't mind being caught strapping Chris Statlander because she'll get disqualified and she'll retain." I'm like, "No, she won't. It's 2 out of 3 falls. That's not how this works. What the fuck are you talking about?" And so thank God eventually Bryan Danielson was a hero on the show in a lot of ways. He's talking about how you can disqualify yourself to set the table for you to win another fall, and maybe the fall after that. AEW's done this in Iron Man matches, but Tony Schiavone had an old man moment there for sure. But during the struggle involving the belt, Tekla cradles Chris, grabs the rope for the first fall, and so they have like maybe 30 seconds or a minute in between falls here before the bell rings again. At the start of the second fall, Chris Statlander hits a baseball slide on Tekla to the outside. Chris Statlander rushes Tekla, but Tekla dodges and she goes right into the steel steps. Tekla, uh, she hits a superplex. Her legs are still tied to the ropes though, so it's like a spider suplex. So Tekla's character, she's a toxic spider in Stardom. She used the ropes for offense quite a bit. So instead of her falling along with the superplex, her legs are still tied up. So that was a pretty cool visual. And then she hits a crossbody to the outside, but Chris catches her, eventually rams Tekla back and forth into the two barricades, like swinging her legs back and forth, left to right, hitting her both sides. This felt like a Stardom spot or a Japan spot. Chris is no-selling all of Tekla's really loud chops. Chris slaps Tekla. Tekla does a tilt-a-whirl and basically is getting Chris. I think this is the Black Widow, AJ Lee's finishing move for WWE fans. Chris powers through, hits the Saturday Night Fever for the second fall, so she gets a clean win there. Tekla shoves Chris into the referee Paul Turner during the third fall. Tekla kicks the ref and takes his belt. How is this not a disqualification? I don't know, because I know these referees are made of glass, but you should know when you're getting kicked, and you should see or feel who's taking the belt from you. Now Brian's saying Tekla should be careful for a disqualification because it's the last fall. So Chris Statlander blocks Tekla's strap attempt. She's smiling dastardly. She's like, "Oh, you're toast. Warm, buttery toast." She chops Tekla, and she's strapping Tekla over and over really hard. Tekla's got the marks to show. Like how Tekla used the strap to win the Women's Championship originally, Chris hits the Saturday Night Fever for a visual pin, but there's no ref. She's fighting off the Sisters of Sin when they interfere. Chris is going for the strap again, but the referee finally wakes up, takes the belt away, but during this, Tekla hits the spear and 2 curb stomps for the win. This might be the weakest match on the show. I thought they worked hard to get the crowd back into it, but I felt it sort of reminded me of like an old WWE Survivor Series traditional Survivor match where all of a sudden, just because you got falls or you need eliminations, the matches are a little bit more brief just for this sake. So, I don't know. I think you have to get the Women's Championship match on the show. I don't think it was necessarily a pay-per-view quality match, but they did get the crowd to work hard. They worked hard to get the crowd into it in the end, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. This match didn't really do it for me either. I'm not a huge Statlander fan. And then I don't know. It's always tough, I find, especially when the title's won on Dynamite and then the
Mhm.
rematch is at the pay-per-view because, I mean, anything can happen, but they're probably not winning the belt back. So, not that you should think like this, but going into it, I'm just like, well, it doesn't really matter. We know Tekla's keeping it. Like, what's the point? Let's just get to where we're going and then see what's next. And unfortunately, that's kind of where I was with this match. Like you said, too, a 2 out of 3 falls match on for already 10 match show that was 4.5 hours. They did a pretty good job of getting the falls like the first couple sort of quick. Sometimes I'm not huge on that though, where they'll do it like right away back to back, and then it's like, okay, now it's the third fall, and it's like, why don't you just do a regular fucking match then? Like, what was the point of, you know? So sometimes I feel like it kind of kills the gimmick when it's too early, where they'll each like steal a fall, and then it's like, okay, this is the next one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought it was early enough with this where it didn't do that, and then we got to where we needed to go in the end. But yeah, this was probably one of the weaker matches on the card for me. And hopefully whatever we see next with Tekla is something that I can kind of sink my teeth into a little bit more.
Tony Storm and Tekla will sell all the money. That will, or get all the buys, I should say. I mean, Tekla's got so much charisma. She's so funny. She's so cool. And she's a great worker. I think I mentioned it with Chris before, but I remember she said in an interview that she felt that her win when she won the AW Women's World Championship, it was during a random four-way, kind of felt not unearned, but out of nowhere. And then, they took away her old banner theme song, gave her some generic nonsense. Uh, there was this long story about her trying to reconnect with her old friend, her old tag team partner, her former rival, Willow Nightingale. And that was going nowhere. But then she just wins the championship. And then once Willow wins the TBS championship, it's like, hey, we just resolve just because we both still succeeded while we were separate. So it just felt like there's no real story or real deserved payoff for Chris Statlander for finally climbing the mountains. So it feels like she needs to be rehabilitated a bit before she can be won over again. But right now, yeah, it's not doing it for me. As much as she works hard, it's not doing it for me, unfortunately. But Tekla rules, though.
Totally. Yeah. Oh,
yeah. So this is where we both panicked. So taking it behind the curtains, we watch AEW pay-per-views on Triller. And at some point, we were not the only ones. Our Triller feed died. It just ended where anytime you tried to press watch live, because it said it was on air, but anytime you hit resume or watch live, it would just cut off at the same point. It's like, we paid $50 for this show? And it was just like, no, I was going to pull out my hair because everyone else was still like watching their show normally. And then eventually we see it's the Trios Titles matches with the Don Callis family, Mark Davis, Kazuchika Okada, and Kyle Fletcher defending against Mystico and Speedball, Mike Bailey, and Kevin Knight. Thank God the feed returns just as the Don Callis family is making their entrance. And because I eventually go to Triller's app and there's like a live chat if you're watching on mobile, I suppose. And everyone's having the same problems as we are. So at least this is short-lived. Ace, oh God, I feel like I'm getting PTSD again, but like, God, that was the longest 3 minutes of my life there.
I don't know about longest 3 minutes of my life, but it was definitely something where you're just like, okay, not it felt a little bit bush league where you're kind of like, man, like, like you said, there's money on the line, like let's do this. Especially when we cut back and we're already back, sort of, you miss some entrances and um but again, kind of the theme of this from earlier was the good faith keeps you in. We know accidents happen. It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely something that you see and you're kind of like, come on, man, like so.
And Triller's basically close to bankruptcy. It's like they're not doing good at all. So it's like they need the money where they can find them at this point. That's why there's a My AEW international streaming service now, is because Triller might be toast soon. So they need our money and hopefully don't need to give us refunds. So anyways, the trios match continues. I'll be forward with you folks. There's so much cool shit, so much wild shit that happens in a trios match. It's hard to draw all of it down. So just trust us. This match is great. Go watch it. But here's some of the notes I was able to take amid all this craziness. So Mark Davis, so Speedball and Kevin Knight, they're teaming up with Mystico. Mystico has this really nice mask. They have matching gear, like similar colors. They're both wearing masks. Mark Davis is unmasking Speedball and Kevin Knight. Bryan Danielson, though, says, I think he might be helping Kevin Knight and Speedball here just because they can see and they can breathe. I died. Bryan Danielson. This guy's unbelievable. And then Kyle Fletcher afterwards, he wears one of the masks. He mocks them. He hits a kick. He wipes the mask right all over his balls and he throws it away. The crowd is chanting a very naughty word in Spanish that I cannot pronounce. Mystico is looking unreal throughout this match. You can, however, two things. One, you can see him slap his leg as clear a day when he's taking a back elbow from Kyle Fletcher, like, ooh, that elbow got him good, but you can just see him slapping his leg.
He's always been a big leg slapper.
A lot of luchadors are, a lot of indie guys are too, but unfortunately the camera was just not in the right position for this, or the director made a wrong call to cut to that. But Mystico then grabs Okada's hand. He's going to the top rope. He slips a little bit, but he doesn't panic. He takes his time, and then he hits this beautiful Hurricane Rana on Fletcher while giving an arm drag to Okada. Jet Speed Sticko, as I wanted to call this trio. They hit a trio of dives to the outside. Kazuchika Okada and Kevin Knight hit separate drop kicks. They both have beautiful drop kicks. Okada always has perfect timing. Kevin Knight's just super duper athletic, so they're having a joke about who got more hang time. So Okada flips off Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight, in turn, bites Okada's finger and then Okada does hit a dropkick on Kevin Knight, so they're still teasing about that eventual rematch after Kevin Knight defeated Okada in the Continental Classic. Mark Davis grabs Kevin Knight's leg, hits a one-arm powerbomb on Speedball during this, and then flips Kevin Knight on his belly, so they make Mark Davis as strong as possible before they kill him. Mystico hits La Mystica, which is like a tilt-a-whirl arm breaker, tilt-a-whirl into an armbar, I should say, on Kyle Fletcher. Kevin Knight hits a UFO splash on Mark Davis, jumps over both of these two men while Mystico has the submission on Fletcher, gets the pin. I did not see this coming. This is rule. This is awesome. This rules. And during the celebration, there's a graphic that plays on the Jumbotron that says, Mystico is all elite. He's on the same co-brand contract that Mascara Dorada and Hechicero, other CMLL guys, are on. I thought this is pretty freaking great, Ace. This brought a big smile to my face. This was the good kind of wholesome win.
This was a really cool moment, and it's interesting because obviously the story of the luchador, with him being faceless, you could feel the emotion coming from Mystico, which I thought was really cool for somebody whose entire face was covered. But you could see just how excited he was. So I thought it was really cool. And it was a moment we didn't see coming. I definitely thought the Callis family would be retaining. So to see this, just that, and in and of itself was like, oh, cool, I didn't see that coming. Especially since they just won it, and then to see that it's not just a one-time thing or a couple-time thing. He will be working both. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, because like Mystico's been on AEW a couple times before. Like anytime they run a show in like near the border along Texas, like they'll put Mystico on the card to try and get a few more of the Lucha Libre fans to buy a ticket. But so we've seen this with AEW. They've signed Hechicero, Mascara Dorada, other CMLL guys who have been on AEW to dual contracts. And Konosuke Takeshita, for example, has like a trio contract, I think it is. Three brands at the same time. But with Mystico, here's the thing. So CMLL does super business, but they really do depend on their house gates for the most part. I'm not sure if you know, Ace, but this WWE, they may have purchased their own Mexican wrestling promotion, AAA, and WWE has more money to play with than CMLL. So if they ever wanted Mascara Dorada or Hechicero or Commander, or not Commander, Mystico, they could probably get him. They have more money than they know what to do with. So while these CMLL guys can still wrestle every Friday night at Arena Mexico or wherever, they do have that US TV contract as well. So CMLL having this partnership with AEW, they can make sure that their top talents are still financially well
It's
taken care of
secure.
and secure. So, and Mystico, this guy does house shows all over the place in Mexico too. So I think he can add a couple AEW dates to his schedule, preferably April 12th, Rogers Arena in Vancouver. I hope Mystico likes Canada.
Who doesn't? Yeah, no, I was gonna the quote my mom's always used, going back to the more money than they know what to do with, is that they have more dollars than cents, which is
Hey,
always been one of my favorites. My mom would bust out when she was dunking on some rich guy.
Misty was probably just giving all these rich blokes at the Banff Hotel the business.
Oh, oh.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Misty. Putting the Misty in Mystico, I should say. But
Hey, there you go. I didn't even think of that shit.
I did.
I should
Honestly,
have.
genuinely dead ass. I just thought that just now. I hardly ever have a good organic thought. That
He's
was
very quick. I got to give you that. You're very quick.
not as quick as Bandito and Andrade. So we followed up with a luchador with even more lucha. I saw the main event of Collision this morning. Andrade took on Mascara Dorada. I thought, wow, I can't imagine that Bandito and Andrade can top this. They did. This is really good. I mean, the crowd's tired at this point, but they had a great match. Don Callis, this slimy, bald bastard, he was really funny in this match. So he's on commentary. Of course, Andrade's part of the Don Callis family. Don Callis is claiming that women and men want to drain and drink the shirt that Andrade's wearing to drink all the sweat. He's filthy, Ace. Just a filthy, filthy human being.
And he calls us the sickos. It's insane.
Fuck this Don Callis guy. So eventually, so Andrade, since he's returned to AEW, he has this gimmick where he wrestles in pants, but they're tearaway pants. And beneath those, he has the tightest trunks on God's green earth, the tightest Speedo trunks. So the crowd is chanting, "Take your pants off," which is different than the "take your pants off" chants that you'd probably hear in 2000 or 2001, but I digress. In a swerve, Bandito takes his pants.
Or at least he tries to.
He tries to. I can't say. So Bandito tries. He's wearing tearaway pants. He tries to take his pants off, but his pants, like it was like his trousers are around his ankles, and Andrade just hits a knee right when Bandito's in the middle of taking his pants off. And then Andrade teases that he's gonna take his pants off, but he's like, "No, no, no!" And the fans boo him. This Andrade, Ace, I gotta quickly say, I was very skeptical with Andrade coming back just because I didn't know how motivated he'd be. This guy is a top guy. This guy's fucking awesome. I love
It's been
him.
quite the renaissance for him. It's pretty cool to
Yes.
see.
You see, when people get divorced, sometimes they'll get into like dad butt rock. Maybe they'll go to a Creed concert or something. Andrade will just get gigantic and just put on 5-star banners. Like, what a divorce era.
You know what's funny when my parents separated, if my dad pitched after the breakup, yeah, I'm just gonna rip my pants off a bunch, nobody would want to see that, but somehow it works here. So I don't know how, but
I don't want to say Timbers is not a handsome man, but Andrade has been working on that body quite a bit. He's
yeah,
okay, so eventually Bandito's trying to do a springboard move, but Andrade hits a power bomb. Andrade eventually gives the crowd what they want. He takes his pants off. Ace, this isn't like a full-on Speedo or a thon. These are technically the smallest red trunks I've ever seen.
does not leave much to the imagination. Yeah.
This is like smaller than a Speedo, but not a thon. These are like technically these. You can technically call these trunks. These are tiny. Andrade is very, very proud of his body and how much work he's put in. So Andrade continues.
You know what? Good for him.
You know what? Yeah. I want to be Andrade at some point, but you know what? I love my pizza and my beers too much, so I'll just have to settle with going to the gym and not having a cut, I suppose. So pardon me, Andrade continues his gimmick of taking a selfie with a attractive female fan. Don Callis, he started this gimmick, I should say, on Collision this Saturday. He says, "Hey, I said no more freebies. Get a $20 from that girl for a Polaroid." So that's pretty funny. The woman gets her money's worth by touching Andrade's hair, gets the bang for the buck. Triller's feed again cuts. It lags a little bit, but then thankfully loads just a few seconds later, and then we're back on track. Andrade is going for 3 amigos, the 3 vertical suplexes in honor of Eddie Guerrero. Bandito's countering those with German suplexes, so they're going back and forth for a little bit. Bandito's going for the 21 plex, but Andrade shoves him over the top rope. Bandito's then going for a deadlift suplex on the outside, but Andrade sweeps his leg off the apron, hits a picture-perfect moonsault onto the outside. He then takes another selfie with another fan. How is this guy not the top babyface in the promotion right now? Don Callis says, and I quote, "It's not a petting zoo, toots." Okay, that's some Attitude Era commentary from Don Callis there. Andrade then gives his number to this fan this time. The first fan didn't get his phone number. This one, for some odd reason, deserved it. Bandito, Andrade is going for a moonsault inside the ring now, but Bandito rolls out of the way, but Andrade lands on his feet, hits another moonsault. He then hits a pair of running knees in the corner for a great near fall. Bandito, every time he hits this, I think he's just going to break his neck. He's hitting Andrade with a fallaway slam, but he's on the top rope and then he does a moonsault still, or yeah, he still does a moonsault. I don't understand how he doesn't die doing this. Uh, During this spot, I just realized this AEW's been loving their crowd shots, like taking their video of the crowd's reactions. They've been doing this a little bit too much throughout the show at this point. Uh, Bandito setting up for the 21 plex, but Andrade hits a spinning back elbow. This every time he does this, it looks so cool. So like he like fakes by going with the kick, and so whoever is going to be getting kicked, they throw his leg to the side, but then he responds with like this fast spinning back elbow. Always looks so cool. Uh, however, shortly after Bandito, I don't know how he did this. He hits Andrade with a rolling heel kick to a falling opponent. He has Andrade on his shoulders and he hits a spinning heel back kick. Bryan Danielson cannot even believe that he pulled this off. I can't believe Bandito pulled this off. He hits a deadlift 21 plex for a near fall. So Andrade's like face down on the mat. Bandito goes for a 21 plex. He picks him off the canvas. He's not even like standing up and leaning over. Off the canvas, he does this. Bandito then hits his X knee, and then he's going for one more 21 plex, but Andrade hits his back elbow again. It looks even better than the first somehow. He hits his avalanche DM finishing move, which is basically like a swinging net breaker. He gets the win. This blew my face off. The crowd is a little tired at this point in the show, but Andrade just delivers another banger. Ace, I don't know. I don't even know what else to say about this guy or both these men for that matter.
Yeah, like we had mentioned it even earlier too. It was very heel heavy with especially clean wins. But I think this was 100% the move. Andrade's maybe I'm gonna even say I was gonna like this is probably the hottest he's ever been, even like peak NXT for first call out like this, like what a renaissance for him. It's been really cool to see him kind of flourish finally instead of just, sort of meandering around for a while, not really finding his footing. I like seeing stuff like this because people, strike when the iron's hot, and he's been doing great. Yeah, I'm really happy for his success, and I'm glad he's doing well.
Yeah, I didn't see him as La Sombra in CMLL, but I'm not sure if he's getting to that point right now. But as far as US TV goes, this guy's on the run of his life. I can't get enough of him. So we thought that this was going to be the cool down match. And we always say the idea of a cool down match is, okay, you need a breather. And so a match or a segment would just take up time while people collect their thoughts and their breath and their stamina again. Boy, we were wrong. Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, and Roderick Strong taking on the Dogs, David Finlay, Gabe Kidd, and Clark Connors. So Roddy, after leaving the conglomeration a few weeks ago, leaving Orange Cassidy high and dry, he returns on Wednesday to save Orange. And so Orange's Jumbotron says Roddy was missing and there's a $15 gift card reward if he was found. Roddy comes out. Orange gives him this $15 gift card. Roddy throws it away. I have no idea what the gift card was, but I don't think any of us would throw away a $15 gift card. I don't know how much Roddy's making, but that could still go to a good cause. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yep. So, yeah, this is great. This is I don't even know where to go. The spot of this match, though, is so Darby Allin's going, like, he's going from the inside to the outside of the ring. Clark Connors, I think this is what gets the crowd into the match. Clark Connors hits a spear. He spears Darby through the ropes to the outside for this gnarly bump, and that's where it feels like the fans are completely locked in. Gabe and Finlay hit a doomsday device on Darby to the inside, and then eventually they take a tag rope. So, yeah, you notice when you're watching a tag team match, they hardly make note of it, but like you'll see on when there's a tag team match going on and folks are on the corners, there's a little white rope that people are hanging onto, and that's the tag rope. It's just hardly acknowledged though. So this is a tornado trios match. The Dogs tie this tag rope through Darby's chain. He's wearing a chain around his neck, kind of like you are, Ace. Not exactly that kind of chain.
Here, there you go.
I don't think I can fit a tag rope through there though, so I think you are okay.
Yeah, it might be a bit tight. Yeah, it might be.
you don't have to worry about being in a tag team match and being attacked like
Not
this.
anytime soon, hopefully at least. Yeah.
Yep. So they tie this tag rope to Darby's chain and they're hitting him. They're getting good heat. Orange is doing his orange gimmick with the dogs, like the very soft slaps or whatever. And then eventually, Orange is putting his hands in his pocket to put a cherry on top of this as he's getting hit over and over by the dogs. Roddy comes in. He's going wild with all these moves on all of them. He's using Orange Cassidy as a battering ram, like feet first. And the crowd, after a couple minutes, starts chanting, "Please help Darby! Please help Darby!" And that's fair. Darby is being tied with a tag rope. It's chained to the turnbuckle for throughout this entire time here. Eventually, Orange cuts Darby free. Darby hits a coffin drop to the outside. All three faces put the dogs in submissions. Finley, the new signing, he powers out to break them all up. Tony Schiavone at some point says, "This is fucking awesome." Ace, this might have been the first F-bomb I've ever heard a commentator on a big league promotion drop an F-bomb, and Tony Schiavone, who's been here for decades and decades, says something along the lines of, "This is fucking awesome." So he was
Yeah,
right.
definitely. I think I had to like check. I was like, did he actually like? Did I just hear that? Or and then I think I checked with you, and you're like, no, yeah, he said it. So
Good. It was hardly mentioned. It was like an average comment, but I think that was like the first F-bomb I could recall because I've like a GCW or an indie show. Definitely you've heard an F-bomb, but like at this level, wild. So eventually, Darby is going off the ramp. Gabe Kidd's off the side of the entrance ramp. Darby, he has a skateboard. He basically does like a curb, like it's like a coup de grace to the outside, but he has a skateboard and he just drives his skateboard right into Gabe Kidd's back. That looked like it sucked. Eventually, you just realize that Gabe Kidd is zip tied to the stage during this whole process as Darby returns to the ring. Orange hits his orange punch, and Roddy hits his end of heartache on Clark Connors for the win. The baby faces are victorious over the dogs. Darby spits at Gabe while going up the stage. I thought this is good. This feud will obviously continue. I can't believe they beat the dogs here on their first pay-per-view match just 2 weeks after David Finlay signed with AEW. That was a little wild to me, but good match though.
yeah, I wasn't huge on that either. Just the match was good, but it again, like we'll talk about in a second here. I also I thought the dog should have won for Finley's first debut, but you know, we'll we'll get something else. So
I'm sure. All right, let's relive our trauma. So it's the main event. It's the Texas Death Match. MJF defending the AEW Men's World Championship against Hangman and Page. Ace, very quickly, I know Brooke was able to watch this match with you. I know that we're trying to get some friends smartened up a little bit more on AEW before our big time viewing AEW Dynasty in Vancouver in 4 weeks' time. I'll give AEW credit to this. Anytime they promote something like this, they'll deliver. If they say it's Texas Death, they'll give you Texas Death. I've seen the Hangman in a lot of Texas Death matches. Some of these spots are blowing my mind. And I need to ask you, overall, your quick thoughts on the levels of gruesome violence we saw. And tell me Brooke didn't get scared off her realsies. Please tell me she's still coming to Dynasty next month because I can't imagine we're seeing a death match in 4 weeks' time after seeing whatever the hell this was.
yeah, this definitely was a bit of a grosser one for her, which I always find funny because she is a nurse. To be fair, she's not in a merge or trauma, but she is a medical nurse. And it's always interesting to me when she'll see blood and go like, oh, oh. And there was a lot of that, but there was also just a lot of gross spots in this that we'll get to. And I think, I like to pride myself as a sicko. Um, Even there was a couple here where I was like, all right, like that's, you know. But yeah, I'll let you do your thing and get to it. But definitely a couple times where I'm like, that might be a little far. But I mean, hey, what are we if we're not dancing on the line of what works and what doesn't, right?
Yep. You can never say that Hangman and MJF do not care about this promotion or you, the fans. They gave everything. This is wild. So, I gotta talk about the lore leading up to this match, though. So, in the video package before this match, they talked about how MJF said, "Hey, man, you were the champion twice, you were the top guy twice, and you failed twice." So, the first time, of course, he lost the Men's World Championship was to CM Punk. I'm not sure if you noticed, Ace, but CM Punk and AEW didn't have the cleanest parting of ways, so they, without telling you Hangman lost to CM Punk, they implied that he lost to CM Punk because Hangman is doing the go to sleep pose where his head is laying on the side of his hands. And this continued again. Well, there was a bunch of CM Punk lore here on the show, and they've never, like, in recap videos, they've had CM Punk present, but they never say his name or say his involvement in these storylines when talking about the lore and build-up. So, well, they do that one more time, though. But in the meantime, Hangman's entrance, a trumpet player is playing him to the ring while a compilation of all his Texas Death matches is playing on in the background on the Jumbotron. God, Hangman has bled buckets for this company. And then MJF has a Western cowboy kind of entrance video. He has a banjo rendition of his theme song. He pisses on Hangman's grave. He empties his whole bladder. I think I described it like, I think MJF shoot pissed on this grave just with how much came out. And like, there's like that brief pause before the last little bit comes out. And you're like, what else do you do when you're pissing on a man's grave? You gotta do it for realsies, I suppose.
It's like when you wake up first thing in the morning and it stops for a sec and then you get that stream again. And yeah.
Yep. I don't know about the game, but apparently these are both Red Dead Redemption 2 entrances. So we'll need to talk to our friends who played this game to get the confirmation there. But MJF comes out. He has a cowboy hat. He has like a poncho, and he has Terry Funk tights. Chef kisses there. For the introduction, MJF gets the ring announcer Justin Roberts to say, not that he's from Long Island, New York. He's not from a piece of shit town like Los Angeles. Geez, I wonder who we're supposed to boo. And from there, we have a lot in this match. So MJF escapes the crowd at first. He's bleeding from the mouth already. Hangman takes a drink from a fan because the cowboy loves himself some beers. This comedy spot didn't work for me, as funny as it was, because MJF is running away from Hangman with this garbage can, and eventually Hangman decides to just stop chasing him. He stays in place. MJF, like a cartoon, is still circling around the ring. Hangman's just waiting for the other side, and then just hits MJF with the garbage can lid, and then Hangman calls him a dumbass. Funny spot. I wouldn't do this in this match, though, but what are you gonna do? Eventually, Hangman gets out the staple gun, so apparently today was Maxwell Jacob Friedman's 30th birthday. He's within our age range. What better way to celebrate your 30th birthday than Hangman getting him a birthday card, and then using said birthday card to give him paper cuts in between his fingers. And of all the things on the show, this is what got the crowd to chant, "You sick fuck," to the Hangman. Because we may never get put in barbed wire in our lifetime. We've all had a paper cut before. And even though they've done some crazy stuff, hopefully the Hangman did not give MJF shoot paper cuts here, because that'd be a little extra cruel. Eventually, Hangman he legitimately staples this birthday card to the chest of MJF. He rips off the birthday card afterwards. Hangman brings a window into the middle of the ring, a pane of glass. Tony Schiavone says that MJF is going to be in a bunch of pain. And Bryan Danielson, Excalibur, no-sell this dad joke. Brian should have laughed at it. I'm disappointed in Brian for not. Hell yeah, Tony Schiavone, you dropped an F-bomb and you gave a banner of a joke. But MJF breaks the window in the middle of the ring, so there's a bunch of broken glass everywhere. Hangman slams MJF into this glass, and then he drags MJF front first, chest first, into all this broken glass. This looks like it sucks.
Real quick too, I'm gonna mention here just because I got a kick out of this. When he breaks the window pane, he says, "I don't do that indie shit," and then he proceeded to do some indie shit by getting dragged around through it, which I thought was a fun touch.
Unbelievable. Like, there was a chant for CZW Combat Zone Wrestling at some point during this match, and MJF did spend a couple of years in CZW. I don't know if he did a match like this, but he's at least familiar with the concept. But yeah, he did a lot of indie bullshit. He had a outlaw mud show here in this main event. This classically trained old school wrestler. Love you, Max. So eventually, Hangman hits MJF with a fistful of barbed wire. Max is gushing blood. He does an Eddie Guerrero tribute. Uh, and so during the build up to this match, Hangman says, "Max, I'll use some barbed wire and maybe I'll rip your tongue out." He comes close. He wraps the barbed wire around MJF's mouth. He basically turns him into the Joker, just with, "How do you think I got these scars?" Like, it is just making him smile just with this barbed wire alone. Uh, MJF finally gets momentum. He does a drop toe hold Hangman to a chair outside. MJF busts Hangman open. He throws him into the glass. He drags him through it. This might be one of my favorite spots in the show. MJF grabs a broom and he's sweeping the glass out of the ring. He's cleaning up the broken glass in a death match. I don't think I've seen this before. And the fans chant, "Sweep forever! Sweep forever!" AEW fans are fucking funny. I gotta hand it to them. They're pretty quick on their feet sometimes. So Hangman breaks the broom. MJF bites his hand, though, gets the jagged edge, and hits the Hangman. Oh, God. This is the part. So we have a pretty good stomach for wrestling. I dreaded seeing this. So MJF brings out a syringe, a needle, and I'm not like, I don't faint at needles. I don't mind needles. I don't want to see a needle in me, but like I'm fine with needles for the most part. There was a spot 2 years ago. It was a steel cage, an unsanctioned steel cage match between the Hangman and Swerve Strickland, where the finish was Hangman in this blood feud was sticking a syringe in Swerve's jaw or something. I'm not sure if it's supposed to knock it out or it's supposed to pierce through his cheek or whatever, but a needle was in Swerve's mouth, and then Hangman hits Swerve with an unprotected steel chair shot for the win. So this needle comes back 2 years later. MJF, I swear on a stack of Bibles, on you and Brooke and God himself, shoves the needle through Hangman's cheek. You can see this syringe through his cheek. MJF then squirts the liquid out. You can see this liquid popping out of the needle that's through the Hangman's cheek. I am in tears. And then Hangman's trying to make his comeback with this needle still in his cheek. I think this is my line. I don't think I need to see this again.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about with dancing on the line. Take your chances. But yeah, for me, that was one of the ones where I was just like that just, little rich for my blood.
Is this the spot where I think Brooke said she tapped out at this spot? Was that a shoot? Did Brooke actually leave the match after this spot, or
No, she did sit through. There was a lot of texting afterwards and not really looking too much. But this was definitely one of the ones that was just, yeah, bit much.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're seeing this in Vancouver. Hopefully never seeing this ever again. Oh God. But yeah, so Hangman eventually he makes his comeback. He has a barbed wire steel chair. Uh MJF hits Hangman with an Alabama slammer on it. He's going for the heat seeker pile driver. Hangman counters that into a dead eye on said barbed wire chair. These sickos chant one more time as Hangman is hitting Max with the barbed wire chair. These sickos. Hangman goes for an Oihara moonsault to the outside while holding the barbed wire chair, and then he misses. MJF throws the chair in his face. Hangman then eventually hits a dead eye through the table to the outside. I know this looks devastating for Max, pardon me, but Hangman's still going knee first into the table, onto the outside floor. Oh, God. His knees must be made of concrete. I don't know how he hasn't, torn anything yet. MJF then hits a tombstone pile driver through another table on the other side of the ring. I thought he almost tore his knee this time. Then, if the needle wasn't good enough for you, Ace, they get light tubes. And that's where we get our CCW chant. MJF begins to cower away to the stage, but he's limping. He's selling his knee after that tombstone. They're teasing, hitting each other with the light tubes. Hangman hits his light tube over MJF's back. I this is the second time in the match I almost tapped out. Max's back is shredded, and you can see a clear line where his back is just gushing. I'm like, why
Yeah,
am I
they got
doing
some good blood out of these. When it hit him in the head too, just
this?
they got some good blood out of those light tubes.
Yeah, like they gave us Texas Death. They gave us what they advertised. I can't take that from them, but this was just disgusting. I'd say this or this didn't beat Darby Allin doing the dive through the pane of glass to the outside during Sting's retirement match, where Darby's entire back was shredded. But this is second though. This is pretty disgusting. Uh, so Hangman eventually has skewers. They have a test of strength with them. Brian notes that MJF is using a wrist lock, a wrestling hold in this Texas Death Match to try and win the test of strength with the skewers. Hangman does get the skewers in. You can just see him sticking out of MJF's head. Brian notes that he just got his hair done. Nope, MJF going to Turkey for the hair transplant is now canon in AEW, so hell yeah to that. Hangman hits the buckshot lariat. MJF somehow beats the count of 10, and so the only way to win a Texas Death Match is by submission or having both feet. You're standing on both feet before the count of 10. MJF beat the count. This is where we both thought that Hangman had this match won, but this resilient, dastardly heel MJF finds a way to get his feet up. And then this is the next little bit of CM Punk lore. So Hangman gets a dog collar. And the commentary team notes that it was 4 years ago at this Revolution event that MJF had his famous dog collar match with CM Punk. They don't mention CM Punk's name. And so Hangman puts the dog collar on himself and MJF. MJF says, "Not again!" But then, of course, it's like a dog collar match in the middle of this Texas Death Match. There's a "We Want Fire" chant. These fucking LA folks are fucked. And then we didn't get fire after all. I think you said you wanted fire, Ace.
I wouldn't have said no.
Hangman was asking for a lighter, and there's a great tweet by Trevor Dame here saying, "You fools, it's LA. There's only vapes. There's no lighters. There's only cell phone flashlights and vapes. There's no lighters here at a concert or at a wrestling show." But instead of fire, he gets a barbed wire board instead. MJF yanks the chain. He throws Hangman through the barbed wire table. Hangman somehow beats the 10 count, and then MJF is just whipping Hangman with this chain up the stage. They're teetering off on the side of the stage. Hangman used the chain to bring MJF to him, not like he's lassoing him, like using one hand after another to bring MJF over to him. And then he looks on the side like brothers in arms. They do a dive together, and technically Hangman twisted this just enough for this to be like a belly to back or a belly to belly suplex. It goes through the tables, through the electrical equipment. There's explosions. I thought, what if this match ends in a draw? What happens? Does Hangman still never challenge for the title again? But we don't have to worry about that because they somehow beat the count of 10. And so Hangman is walking MJF back to the ring like a literal dog, and there's hoo, 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 bark chants. Tony Schiavone calls MJF a good boy, and then the crowd, great minds think alike, chant, "He's a good boy." Again, these fans are funny. Hangman goes for a buckshot lariat attempt, but MJF kicks him in the balls. MJF then hits Hangman with the belt with a huge thud. I thought that was the end of the match, but Hangman, with milliseconds, just gets up. Hangman, the turntables, he kicks MJF in the balls and hits MJF with the belt. The crowd's going insane. Hangman's going for his buckshot lariat to finally put a cherry on top and to put MJF away from good. MJF punches Hangman, and then, because they both have the dog collars, MJF has the chain, and he starts to hang Hangman, like how Hangman had did this to Jon Moxley many times in the past. Hangman passes out. His bloody face hits the camera. It leaves a beautiful, disgusting, bloody print on the lens of this camera. Hangman does not move. Even the referee, he hesitates for counting 10, but eventually he counts 10. Hangman Adam Page loses clean as a whistle as you can this match. The camera then points to MJF's hand. He has the dynamite diamond ring on his hand, knocks out the Hangman basically before hanging him with the chain. MJF wins. My notes say MJF wins clean. OMFG. MJF wins fair and square. Wow. And so the show ends with Hangman being taken out on a stretcher. He lost. MJF then stands on the stretcher like he's dancing on the Hangman's grave. It reminds me of Light Yagami mocking L in Death Note, like mocking, like basically dancing on his grave. The commentary team is devastated. So, Ace, I just broke down the match step by step. You've been here with me in this journey. We've been each other's support over the last 2 hours or so. What do you think about how this match still played out? I still can't believe it. Have you thought of anything else about where we're maybe going here over the next little bit? Because Hangman lost this clean as a whistle. I don't know what happens to him. I don't know what happens to MJF. I don't know who challenges him, but I can't believe this happened this way. It was beautiful, disgusting, but bold at the very least.
Yeah, it is too bad because, like I said, the match was really good. There was a lot of great spots, really good story throughout. You're starting to run the risk just a bit of it becoming a bit of a spot fest. Um, but the crowd was so hot that it didn't really matter too much. Um, and the ending was just super poetic. It's just again, you know, I really think you book yourself into a corner with this. And I just wish that it was never on the table for a stipulation. Where they go next, I guess we'll see. I really don't have an idea for Hangman. As for MJF, I don't know why. I see some sort of multi-man situation at Dynasty, whether that be Swerve and Brody or Swerve's probably with Kenny at this point.
Any maybe.
Um, I see a couple, maybe like an Andrade. I see them putting a few in there to kind of, because a lot of the, I think, bigger names that are challenging, like you said, are tied up in a few singles feuds, which we'll probably see play out. But yeah, it's tough too because again, like I said, I feel like MJF should be the champion, and I'm quite enjoying this run. It's just this stipulation I just thought was very short-sighted. And like you said, maybe they want to say like, no, we can book this right. Let's give it another shot. I don't know if sacrificing Hangman's career is worth it, but again, only time will tell. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Hopefully get some clarity for after this Wednesday's AEW Dynamite in Fresno, California. The good thing is this pay-per-view gave us an idea of what we could expect in 4 weeks' time at AEW Dynasty in Vancouver. And they only got 4 weeks to build this pay-per-view, so hopefully we do get more answers and questions sooner. And next time we're on here, we'll figure out time this week to catch up on what happened, all the angles in WWE, some great stuff in vacuum, some great stuff in general, and some stuff that is all-time terrible that we'd see in 2019. We had a good variety. And then, of course, we need to hear how you wrapped up your weekend, your play wrapped up production. Congratulations on a successful run, a successful closing night on Saturday. And then I'll have a good report from Thrash Wrestling in Kamloops from Moccasin Square Gardens on the Kamloops Reserve. We have a lot to catch up on, but for now, we need to get some sleep. Thanks again for listening to us. It's the Cup Check Wrestling Podcast post AEW Revolution. I'm Aaron Schultz. That's Corey Ace Trelaw. Listen to the podcast wherever you listen to, on YouTube, on Amazon, on Spotify, or Apple Music. Follow us on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. I think I got everything. I should just look at the little graphic at the bottom sometimes, but I digress. Ace, until next time, this is Cup Check Wrestling. We're the big boys. Play with each other.
Ah.